Alamo's final hours, not as legend tells it, but as the survivors lived it. This is the story they never wanted you to hear, a tale of fire, blood, and unbreakable defiance, told through the eyes of the last living witness, Joe Travis, the enslaved man who saw it all. What really happened inside those crumbling walls? Why were the bodies burned? And what shocking truths did Travis carry to his grave? Strap in. This isn't the Alamo you were taught. This is history, raw and unfiltered. Joe Travis, enslaved servant of Colonel William Barrett Travis. His first-hand account reveals the unrelenting fatigue, the raw bravery, and the merciless violence that marked those final moments. You'll hear how the defenders, pushed beyond exhaustion, confronted an enemy that attacked without warning or pity, how Colonel Travis battled fiercely until his dying breath, locked in a fatal struggle with a Mexican officer. You'll see the brutal close-quarters fighting, the deaths of legends like Jim Bowie and Davy Crockett, and Santa Anna's ruthless commands that doomed the last survivors. Yet this isn't just a tale of combat, it's an unvarnished look at war's human toll. The women and enslaved prisoners trapped in the chaos, the executions without mercy, and the eerie aftermath where corpses were burned and history nearly silenced. Joe Travis's account endured through the carnage, giving us a raw, often ignored truth about the Alamo. From the thunder of battle to the hollow quiet that followed, from Santa Anna's venomous words to the ghastly heaps of the fallen, this is a story of resistance, anguish, and the desperate fight to live. Stay with me as we uncover this gripping testimony, because what you'll hear will shatter your understanding of the Alamo. But first, don't forget to like and subscribe to help our channel grow. We defenders were worn to the bone after days of ceaseless vigilance and backbreaking work. On the eve of that doomed Sabbath, every man labored late into the night, our spent bodies finally collapsing just before the assault. Everyone but the captain, whose shout tore through the stillness. The 3 sentries posted outside likely succumbed to the same exhaustion, for no warning came. The enemy struck fast, quiet, and deadly. I was in my master's quarters when the chaos erupted. Colonel Travis bolted up, gripping his musket, his sword flashing as he ordered me after him. I obeyed, seized my own weapon, and chased his frantic sprint. Travis lunged onto the ramparts, his voice ragged as he roared to his men. "Rally, men! The devils are here! We meet them with steel and shot." A muzzle flare erupted from his gun. I fired in turn, but before the smoke thinned, Travis staggered. Hit. He slumped against the parapet, fighting to stand, his blood soaking the earth. Twice they scaled the walls, twice thrown back by sheer defiance, though I scarcely saw the fray. My master collapsed and I ducked into a supply room, squeezing off rounds through its slim firing slit as enemy troops poured over the barricades. On their third assault, they met no resistance, spilling into the courtyard like a relentless flood. What came next was pure butchery, brutal and unrestrained. Men clashed hand to hand, muskets swinging like axes, crushing bone, knives gutting flesh, pistols jammed against ribs and fired without hesitation. There was no quarter given, none sought, just the animal snarl of men fighting to outlast the last Texan standing. Colonel Travis, bleeding out in the mud, still clutched his sword when General Morales marched by. The Mexican commander brought his blade down for the kill, but Travis parried with a dying man's strength and rammed his own steel into the general's gut. They toppled together, corpses entwined. That was my master's final defiance. The surviving Americans fell back to whatever cover the shattered fort offered, battling until only a gaunt man named Warner remained. He threw down his gun, begging for life. The troops hesitated until Santa Anna arrived and ordered his death with icy precision. From my hiding place, I heard the firing squads roar. As for Jim Bowie, legend claims he emptied his pistol through his sick room door until his lungs failed. When found, his body was slashed to ruin. Davy Crockett and his men were discovered in a ring of carnage, surrounded by twice their number in Mexican dead, testament to their refusal to yield. The women and enslaved people inside, myself among them, were largely spared. Only one woman died, caught by a stray shot as she darted between artillery pieces. When the killing stopped, officers picked through the wreckage, demanding any black survivors step forward. Shaking, I emerged and cried, "Here's one!" Two soldiers rushed me. One fired, the ball ripping into my flank. The other bayoneted me, the blade grating against bone. I thought it was over until Captain Baramendi intervened, barking at them to stand down. As the gun smoke thinned, the Mexicans spared most of us black captives, along with a handful of their own women, among them a surgeon's wife and her sister, Senorita Navarro. Both were returned under guard to their father, Don Angel Navarro, in Bexar. Mrs. Dickinson, the lieutenant's widow, and her baby were also spared, though I learned later they were sent into Texas under a ragged white flag. When the slaughter ended, Santa Anna ordered his troops into a hollow square. He marched to its center and addressed them with slashing gestures, his words cutting through the dawn. The soldiers roared approval so violently it seemed to steal the air itself. The general struck me as a gaunt, long-limbed figure, dressed more plainly than any officer I'd known. Just a drab wool coat, devoid of medals or insignia. Like some backcountry preacher, I told my captors when they demanded my impression. They hauled me to Bayshore afterward and kept me locked away for days. Later, they paraded me out to observe their army's display. Rank upon rank of infantry and cavalry sprawled across the prairie, their flags snapping like carrion birds. A smirking captain claimed 8,000 men stood ready, but the land told the truth. Gullies and scrub oak choked the field, leaving room for barely half that number. Santa Anna interrogated me himself in a shadowed room, reeking of gunpowder. His gaze pinned me as he barked questions about Texas, our troop numbers, whether more Yankees would reinforce us. "Will they send others?" he demanded, circling like a starved predator. When I faltered, pleading ignorance, he straightened with a thin smile. "No matter," he said. "I've armies enough to raise my flag over your Washington." His voice went glacial, as though the notion delighted him. Through a crack in the wall, I later watched Mexican soldiers stack our dead, Travis, Crockett, the rest, into a grotesque mound. They soaked the corpses in oil and touched fire to them. Black smoke coiled skyward, its greasy stench saturating my clothes for days. Some men cackled as they tossed shattered beams onto the pyre. Others made the sign of the cross and turned away without speaking. Yet Joe Travis's account survived the flames. As the smoke dissipated and the dead burned to ash, one truth emerged, stark and unflinching. The real Alamo story cuts deeper than any legend. Joe Travis's first-hand account strips away the myths, forcing us to face the brutal reality behind both the valor and the violence. But what truly unfolded in those desperate final hours? How did the sacrifice of so few alter the course of history? And what untold truths remain concealed beneath layers of time and legend? Now I turn to you. Which detail of Travis's testimony left you most shaken? Do you think the full story of the Alamo has been suppressed for generations? Might there still be undiscovered accounts waiting to surface? Share your reactions and insights in the comments. Let's piece together this historical puzzle as a community. Joe Travis's account forces us to ask, how much of history is truth, and how much is legend? The Alamo's fallen were burned, their stories nearly erased. But the flames didn't consume everything. What if there are still secrets buried in the ashes? What if Travis wasn't the only witness? The Mexican army wrote their victory, but the dead may yet have the final word. What do you think really happened in those final, desperate hours? Drop your theories below, because this isn't just history. It's a mystery waiting to be solved.